Inbetweeners, I am an Inbetweener, for example, and I think most people today are Inbetweeners because most of us live between our own culture and the dominant Western culture. So culturally, most of the people in the world are Inbetweeners, and we have to live. How do you say? We have to somehow compromise ourselves between this, the dominant culture and yourself, so to speak. And I want to show that in my work, my academic research, not just as in research, but also as personal experiences, and because that's I believe that's the only way that you can touch people's hearts. If you want to do, if you want to bring changes to the world, you have to touch people's hearts, and there's no better way than making your work personal, because people can feel it. They may sympathize. They may even have empathy. I think one of the problems Taiwanese historians have now is that they do not have their own perspective. They simply just follow the Western historical tradition and create historical discourses about Taiwan. And that is a general problem shared by all Taiwanese historians. So I want to create, well, maybe not create, I just want to produce something that is not just about Taiwan, but also of Taiwan. And what I'm working on now is a historical narrative about and of Eastern Taiwan. I try to base it on my understanding of the Amis culture, which is my own cultural background. Because I think when you try to do a research, you have to first embrace yourself. Well, of course, I can also put my research in the context of the Western world. For example, most historians in Taiwan today do pre-modern history in the context of European expansion. That is quite conventional. I do not deny that aspect, but I try to base my research on the Amis culture. Yeah. And it's only after that I realized I actually can produce cross-cultural dialogue, because I'm dealing with two traditions, and I stand between these two traditions. So I'm in a very advantageous position to bridge them. That is what I mentioned at the conference, that my aim is to bridge the incommensurable. They're very different, and to the extent that there haven't, well, previously no historian ever succeeded in making them communicate with each other. But I think it's doable. But it cannot be achieved unless the researchers, or in this case I myself, embrace the culture to which I belong. And I have embraced the Western historical tradition, because I work as a historian, Western trained historian. But I think it can, I can do both at the same time. It's not, it's not conflictive in nature. You can be both, because in reality I am both. So it means intellectually both can be done at the same time. I hope I can draw the attention from other indigenous students, because we will never have a more holistic picture of Taiwan unless more people join this work. So I hope I can well, like, seduce more indigenous people to do historical work. Yeah. It depends on how you make sense out of it. And also, I think just like truth has many faces, Taiwaneseness, so-called Taiwaneseness, also has many faces. So whatever you do can be a contribution to it, to the construction of Taiwaneseness, as long as you do it in Taiwan and as long as you do it as a Taiwanese. Most historians cannot accept it because it's unconventional. And in today's academic world, there's always a specific way of doing research. You have to do it this way in order to make yourself acceptable to your colleagues. So I'm very lucky that there are some historians who encourage me to continue in this direction. But there are also many people, including my previous supervisor, who quite seriously opposed to it. And the word historian has a certain connotation. So I'm actually playing both roles in doing this research. It is very easy for any historian to work within the Western historical tradition because you really have to do that. Otherwise, you're not a historian. But it's rather difficult for any historian to exhibit her indigenousness.
I like this idea that in the Amis culture, time is expressed as space. It sounds so Einsteinian. And reality is not something absolute. It is repeatedly enacted by narratives, by oral narratives. So it's ever-changing and it's never the same. And it's always present. It's always relative, it's personal, it's subjective. So it's totally different from what historians are familiar with. So this honest worldview will be used by me as the guiding principle in plotting my narrative. So just imagine, for example, in the 17th century, there are a group of Amis people in Eastern Taiwan. Suppose that they had the knowledge of the world as we do today. Of course they didn't. Just imagine that. And now they had their dinner, and they are sitting outside their bamboo houses, and they talk to each other. And they want to tell each other about the world. What would they say? What kind of stories would they tell? My writing is the answer to, at least I try to answer this question with my narrative.
I think people would at least see how someone in Eastern Taiwan has tried to make herself understood, make her culture understood by to other people. That's what I want to, well, at least part of what I want to show to other people. And people may also see that at a certain point in Eastern Taiwan, researchers, or at least one researcher, felt that this was a very difficult situation for historians, because in a few centuries of writing of history, you have kind of lost yourself, lost your own culture, and you do not know how to present yourself in your own way, because you don't know about your own culture anymore. So that would be, I suppose, it would be quite obvious for people in the future to recognize that in the early 21st century, Eastern Taiwan represents a difficult situation for historical research. that's actually what I wanted to do in the very beginning. I just wanted to write a story about Eastern Taiwan, and slowly I realized that there are theoretical obstacles that I have to deal with, and then I started to study the Western historical traditions and philosophy of history and so on and so on, and then I realized that I have to argue that there are different traditions, the Western written tradition, the Amis oral tradition, and because I want to bridge them, and the historical narrative I will eventually produce will be the answer to it. So, well, indeed, it was a long story, but in the very beginning I only wanted to write something interesting, and that, as hindsight, I think it's more Amis than Western. Yeah. I don't know whether I should say that because it's politically incorrect, actually.